Dune Part 2 is officially confirmed as IMAX Explorer streaming. The teasers for Book of Boba Fett and Lightyear soar all over the internet, and both Antlers and Last Night in Soho hit theaters. I'm Darius Delsoin.
And I'm Joe Acierno. This is Cinema Unchained.
Alright, everybody. Welcome back to yet again another pretty meaty episode of Cinema Unchained. I'm here, of course, with my co-host Joe. And the first, let's just jump right into this, bro. Let's just jump right into this because I'm excited. I want to know your thoughts. Dune Part 2 is confirmed. There it is. That's the mic drop. What do you think?
Here's the thing. I'm very happy. I'm not necessarily surprised at the same time. I remember when the film came out, a lot of people were concerned that, okay, the first movie is only gonna, or at least a lot of people were saying that the first movie is only gonna work super well if it's completed, because the first film, Dune Part 1, as it says in the title, not exactly marketed to us that way, that ends about halfway through the original novel. So a lot of people were basically saying, oh, this is only going to be worth it now if we get Dune Part 2. So there is a lot of, I guess, just wariness as far as okay, is this actually going to be completed? Now everyone's nerves can be calmed a bit because now Dune 2 has been officially confirmed. And again, it's not necessarily a surprise. Because, again, the biggest question mark was that, okay, Dune, the first one was a big science fiction film. They weren't sure whether or not to take the bet while making the next one. Because Dune 1 costs $165 million to make before marketing costs. Now it's made as of us, as of us recording this episode, it's made $40 million domestically and about $223 million worldwide. So I think it earned the sequel at this point too. So I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy, and it's nice to know that a lot of the pedigree associated with the first film is coming back to complete the story.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. After if you guys haven't seen or heard our Dune review, check it out. Highly recommend it. We definitely talked quite a bit about that movie. But yeah, for me, Dune Part 2, I'm very happy it's confirmed because for a while I was a bit worried, mainly because of its simultaneous release with HBO Max, and I wasn't sure if it was still going to be as successful in the theaters as it should. And hearing you run off the numbers of domestically 40 million and then internationally in the 200 million, I'm like, what? Yeah, it because at the same time, even if it didn't have that financial backing and it made that much, to me at least, just as a part one, you have to complete it no matter. You might as well just fully commit to a trilogy of Dune at this point, and then, or at least part two, at least part two, hopefully, maybe that will wrap it up. But hearing some comments from what Denis Villeneuve has said recently as well, saying that he wants to do either, I think he said it was either a trilogy or end it on the Last Messiah book. So we're going to have to wait and see as far as that and how, if there is going to be a part 3 and etc. But yeah, I'm very happy that Dune Part 2 is official. Take that, Venom, let there be carnage.
Suck a dick. It's funny too.
Yeah.
Because like you said, how you said that Denis Villeneuve apparently wants to do a trilogy with this, or he wants to end up a different Dune book, that sort of thing. I feel like that if they take the approach like they did with The Hobbit with Dune, and if they make 3 movies out of one book, I don't know, I feel like it's gonna be a bit much. I feel like, especially with the point in the book that they ended the first film, I feel like it makes more sense to make 2 films out of one book, at least at this point in the game. Would I prefer that Dune, the original novel, be made into one movie? Honestly, yeah, I would. But again, that's just not how things are going, and especially considering how dense of a novel, to use your word, that Dune is, I guess they can kind of justify making it into 2 movies, even though I would prefer to them, maybe trim some of the fat to adapt this for the big screen, but it is what it is. And Dune 1 is still, and again, you just referenced our review and exactly what we thought of it. We went into great detail about it. I fucking adored the movie. So the fact that I'm getting another one isn't exactly pissing me off.
Yep, exactly. So this is just brings a joy to my face, and when I heard this news, I was like, fracking yes. Flarkin, yes. Yes, I'm talking Rocket right now, and I don't care. But I'm very excited for Dune Part 2. Guys, let us know what you think in the comment sections below. Are you guys excited for Dune Part 2? Did you like Dune? Let us know about that as well. And of course, like I said, we did a review on that. There's going to be a link in the comment section below for you guys to check out our review of Dune, as well as a card in the top right corner of the screen for you guys to check it out. So, moving forward from Dune, because Halloween has passed and came.
Yep.
And of course, as an American society, we love horror, and we love horror movies, especially on Halloween, because it goes well. You know, it's like peanut butter and jelly. It goes together. So I recently got the chance to see Antlers, unfortunately. So that's good. That tells you guys a bit of how I felt. And Joe, I know you said you wanted to ask me a few things about Antlers, so
because I didn't get a chance.
Let's just jump right into this one.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see it this week, so without giving away any spoilers or whatnot, what exactly is the movie about, and what did you think? Tell us a little bit more as far as your thoughts.
Yeah, so to me, Antlers is really about this young boy who goes through this traumatizing event, pretty much, and he's trying to almost fix certain things about what happens to him. And it revolves around, if you know the story, is on a Wendigo and everything. And so, basically, and you can see that in the trailer, really. It's not necessarily a huge spoiler. And you see one of the main characters, the woman, is also trying to figure stuff out as well, as far as relating to this event, what happened, and trying to uncover it. So, from the trailers, this looked very intriguing because they were using, this mythology that they were going with, and that very much intrigued me. And I was like, you know what, this has potential. Within the first 30 minutes, it intrigued me, and then it completely lost me afterwards. Mainly because it wasn't that they were trying to do a bit too much. I just think it kind of lost its flair over time, and what I thought that it could have been done. I think there was a lot going on with it. The fact that they were using this mythology and even some of the horror elements, it was on the more surprising end. I did like some of the eeriness that they were doing. Again, this was pretty early on, and how they stayed on certain scenes longer than it should. But overall, I think as a horror movie, I thought it was a decent one. It wasn't a great one. I was with a friend, and she was like, let's just say afterwards for her, because she is a huge horror fan. She loves horror. That's one of her favorite genres. She was like, this is one of the worst horror movies I've ever seen. And I was like, dang.
Jesus.
Wow.
That's rough, because here's the thing. I remember watching the trailer. I saw the trailer a bunch of times before, whatever movie I saw over the last couple months. And it did at least look interesting. It looked scary, but is the movie itself actually that scary?
The movie itself isn't scary. It relies sort of on the jump scare as we usually see in horror, in typical American horror films in general. And I think that's also an unfortunate aspect of this, because again, they could have done more. I think it definitely it just lacked, to me at least, a bit of creativity and imagination as far as what they could have done. And so it is pretty predictable, and unfortunately in horror fashion. Again, they're using a mythology I find very interesting, and then it just fell flat, because it just went to its basic form of almost a Hollywood structure, unfortunately. And I kind of expected more from this movie, because it just there was a lot going for it, especially for me, and it just fell flat in a lot of areas. Even in some of the jump scares, it's like you're anticipating it, it's coming, and you're just waiting for it. And when it happens, you're just like, all right, I kind of expected more from this type of jump scare, but okay. So it's a very mixed one for me. There are elements I did like. The acting, unfortunately, I couldn't believe a lot of the characters, except for the kid, because they did focus a lot on his story, his mental health, where he was, and you see almost and just how they also lit him. I will say cinematography looked pretty good, as well as how they were characterizing the kid in a way of he's not really an evil kid, but he just has a lot of darkness within him that he's trying to overcome. Basically. Yeah, his own internal demon, and I really enjoyed that aspect. Again, it had a lot going for it. Could have been better. I was just very underwhelmed. So now at the end.
So now here's the thing too. Guillermo del Toro was a producer on this film, but he didn't direct this film. Does this still feel like one of his films? And do you think this film would have been better served if Guillermo del Toro directed it instead of Scott Cooper?
I think if Guillermo del Toro directed it, actually, it doesn't feel like one of his films. In my opinion. I think there are elements that are definitely, I can see why Guillermo del Toro wants to be attached to it. But it doesn't feel like one of his films. So as far as directing, I think he actually could have done a better job at it and utilized the mythology a bit more, utilized even certain visual effects, if not practical effects, better as well. So I think Guillermo del Toro should have directed it, in my opinion. But again, is this an all-right, completely horrible film that everything about it is just bad? No. I do think there are some certain... Unfortunately, there are smaller parts of the movie that I thought were pretty darn good. But as a complete package, just very poor execution. So...
No, well,
yeah, that's
disappointing.
Yeah.
That sucks. I mean, kind of happy, maybe I am happy that I didn't get a chance to see this one this weekend, and you did instead. So, thank you so much for answering a lot of my questions on that. But again, for all you guys that are with us, what did you think of the movie Antlers? If you actually got a chance to see it, leave your thoughts in the comment section wherever it is that you can. And now, before we move forward, don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all notifications, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pandora, YouTube, and so much more. And follow our social media pages in the description. And now, before we talk about the news surrounding IMAX, the little teaser trailer for Lightyear was released this past week, and it's the origin story of Buzz Lightyear, and that's pretty much it. That's all we know so far. And again, I remember hearing about this film being made. I remember watching the trailer, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not 100% sure why this is necessary. Because I'm going to be honest, I don't remember a lot of people asking for this, which is weird because again, Buzz Lightyear is an iconic character, right? But it still feels a little depressing that there are so many origin stories for established characters coming out instead of more original ideas, and it just doesn't seem like a lot of people are willing to go to make up things and go into more uncharted territory. I don't know, that's just me. Feels kind of weird for a toy to have an origin story film. In the universe that, we know Buzz Lightyear as, right? He's a toy. You are a toy. That famous line. It feels weird, to make an origin story based on that, considering the context of the universe that we know Buzz Lightyear in. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, well, I mean, because Buzz Lightyear, he is a figure off of, I guess, one of Andy's shows, right? That he watched? I thought that was
I don't
sort
think
of...
so. Was he? I think he was just a cool new toy at the time.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought it was actually a live action show Andy was into.
That was Woody.
And he had Buzz Lightyear.
That was Woody in Toy Story 2. Remember, he was revealed Woody's Roundup Gang or whatever the show was. That was him. I don't remember them ever saying anything similar for that about Buzz Lightyear.
I thought it was. Well, even for me, I'm in a similar boat as you, man. I'm just is this necessary? Do we need this movie? A part of me is intrigued, but also I'm not that excited, mainly because it's just... I don't know. And it's not... And I know a lot of people have been kind of hating on the trailer recently and really disliking it, mainly because Tim Allen is not coming back to voice Buzz Lightyear.
Which I do agree with.
I understand that sentimental. I like Chris Evans, but at the same time, it's just, again, to me, this movie feels completely unnecessary. And Toy Story 4 just did such... if we thought Toy Story 3 did a really solid job wrapping up that story, I think Toy Story 4 did it even really well too. But at the same time, it was just like their story, everything's wrapped up. Why are we going back to this? And it's that type of franchise where if they haven't explained the origin, but the characters are still so intriguing and enriching, and we're invested in, what's the point in making an origin movie?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
and that's how I feel about Lightyear.
Yeah, I'm in the same exact boat as you. And again, don't get me wrong. Like, it looks like, it looks like as a film itself. Like, so far, it looks okay. I guess it looks pretty cool. There's maybe like an imaginative quality for it because like I'm getting some like Pixar Star Trek vibes from it, which could end up being interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like that's another thing that we'll just have to wait and see. And I feel like Buzz looks, and again, I don't know if it's just because like the animation, the character design just changes with the times, but I feel like Buzz looks a little too different in this film than he does in the Toy Story films too. For me to like, I don't know, it feels kind of weird. And again, I will just say this too, like Chris Evans, I do like Chris Evans. He's a solid Captain America. He'll never replace Tim Allen. He will never replace Tim Allen. That is his role until the day he goes. So that's just me, and that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, same here. It's an odd one to say the least. But yeah, it's like I said, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully, there's something up to it, and well, if it turned out to be good, it turns out to be good. That's how I see it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, now Lightyear is currently set to hit theaters on June 17th of 2022 next year. And again, what do you guys actually think of Lightyear? Again, are you in the same boat as us? Do you feel like this is unnecessary? Do you actually want to see what kind of directions they take this sort of thing in? Leave your thoughts wherever it is that you can. And now, before we end the show with our review of Last Night in Soho, Yahoo Finance is reporting that IMAX is exploring streaming. IMAX CEO Richard Gelfond has stated that he's in productive conversations with leading global streaming platforms. So, Darius, when I sent you this article link, what went through your mind?
God dang it, not again. That's what went through my mind, because it's like, everyone's trying to get in on this action. Like, Jesus.
What action do you mean
when
exactly?
I saw that, it's like, when I saw that IMAX was thinking about this, IMAX going streaming, I was like, oh man, again? Like, just, I don't. Here's the thing with IMAX. IMAX is such a great format when you watch the movies like Dune, like Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, these larger than life experiences that it gives you as a viewer and potential customer a reason to go to the theater.
Yeah.
And if IMAX trying to bring that home, again, one of the reasons why that does intrigue me is because now when you watch an IMAX movie on your TV, it would fill up your TV compared to how you would regularly watch it, where you have that aspect ratio sort of deal going on. However, it's just, to me, it's just like you're giving people less of a reason to go to the theater. Mm-hmm. I want people to have more of a reason. There's a reason. It's as if the theater, it's like when we think things are going well with AMC and they're back on track, and all of a sudden IMAX is like, we want to explore streaming. A huge axe has just been dropped down, and it's like, no, don't even think about it. Like, just no.
The products, right, just to give a little more background context on that, is supposed to be called IMAX Enhanced, right? And it's meant to help the image, quote, much look better in the home without, quote, replacing anything in the theater. And is, in quote, in no way comparable to the IMAX theatrical experience. And I do think there's a bit of truth to that because, like, yeah, you can use, quote, IMAX to make the picture at home look better all you want. IMAX isn't just about the picture, too. Like, that IMAX theatrical experience isn't just about the picture. It's not just about what you see. It's about what you hear, too. Like, there's nothing like the sound in an IMAX theater. There have been so many times when going to IMAX to see something in IMAX is more of an audible experience than a visual experience. Namely, Dunkirk was the first film I saw in IMAX. So that movie looked amazing, but the sound, I'll never forget, like that first gunshot of the of the film Dunkirk, right? Came out. I remember it was in like the back right corner of the theater and just shook me to my core. I remember seeing the film with my I think like 81-year-old grandfather at the time. And I'm thinking to myself, like, is this movie going to give him a heart attack? Like, is he going to go into, like, cardiac arrest just from watching this movie in the IMAX theater? Like, it was just such an immersive experience. I remember going to see Ford v Ferrari with my dad in IMAX, too. And, again, just, like, same thing. It was more of an audible experience because, like, everything with, like, the automobiles and, like, the racing sequences. It just was so freaking amazing. And then, of course, Dune. When we saw Dune recently in IMAX, that was very as much of a visual experience as that movie was. That was very much an audible experience too, because of all the sound, like the soundscapes that they made with, like, sound effects of like the ships and, like, the gunfire and, like, Hans Zimmer's score. So no matter what they try to do at home, nothing will ever replace the theatrical experience, and in my opinion, IMAX is no exception to that. All right, so now before we end the show with our review of Last Night in Soho, the trailer literally just dropped today for the Book of Boba Fett. Now, we we literally just got a chance to watch it right before we recorded this, and Darius, they dropped a lot. they really, I'm out of words at this point. Like, this looks really interesting. I'm gonna be honest. I'm really pumped. I'm gonna be honest because, like, is it me or did you get like an organized crime vibe from what they showed us? Right?
Yes.
How fucking sick is that? That's so fucking cool. And for other you guys, and again, like, I'm sure you know, like, I'm currently towards the end of watching The Sopranos, which, again, is quickly becoming my favorite TV show of all time. And the reason why I got, like, organized crime vibes from this was because, again, like, they reference Boba Fett, like, sitting on the throne of his former boss, Jabba the Hutt, who's a gangster. And, like, there's another scene in the trailer where they're talking to, like, the quote, captains, right? Captains under Jabba the Hutt, and all I could think of was, like, the captains under Tony Soprano. And I'm like, this looks so fucking sick. I'm honestly so fucking pumped. I can't wait. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, woo! Let's just say this trailer got me pumped for Star Wars again. So, I'm very excited for the Book of Boba Fett. I remember when they announced this, I was like, yes, a Boba Fett show I am down for. And then the trailer just... I'm excited because this seems like the show and part of Star Wars that we don't really see a lot, which is the gangster mob, even the underworld in the sense of Star Wars. And finally seeing that come to fruition, it looks like, has me pretty excited. I'm very happy to see the original actor of Boba Fett from at least the prequel trilogy and even the Mandalorian, because he did show up in there. Spoilers at this point. At this point, if you haven't seen it, you haven't seen it. I'm sorry. He showed up again, and seeing him take the mantle of Boba Fett again, he a bit big, but you know what? I'm alright with that because just the posture and tonality of Boba Fett just really makes it for me, and I'm very excited for this show, actually. I did not expect it to look this good.
Right? And, like, here's the thing, too. Like, when they announced, like, the Book of Boba Fett at the ass end of Mandalorian Season 2, right? I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, whatever, this will just be, like, another sort of, like, cash grab show. I'm sure it'll be entertaining enough. But I did not expect for that show to go in this sort of direction. Because, again, like, when it comes to the whole, like, underworld organized crime aspect of Star Wars, if you even want to call it an aspect of Star Wars, because they really only mention it. They don't really dive into it too much. Now we're going to be getting more of that. And it's just like, I just can't wait. I can't wait. It definitely looks like it'll have, like, the same quality craftsmanship of The Mandalorian. So I think at this point it has potential to be even better than The Mandalorian. And I know that's a bold statement right now.
That's a very bold statement.
I know. Like I said, I'm incredibly biased because of my affinity for mob movies. Like I mentioned, The Sopranos before. But I'm curious as far as, like, how exactly they're gonna use the character of Boba Fett with this sort of situation, right? Because they said that, like, Jabba the Hutt ruled with fear. I want to rule with respect. Is he gonna honor that? Is he actually gonna live up to that? And I just want to see exactly how they're going to be able to separate Boba Fett from other, quote, mob bosses in film and TV. And again, it's really interesting because, like, you always thought of Bobby Hutt, I was about to say, as Boba Fett as a bounty hunter, right? Have you ever thought of him as a crime boss, possibly?
I never thought of him as a crime boss, but considering what's happened to him in the movies and even in Mandalorian, I picture him almost the anti-hero sort of sense. So I can see why he would come in with a mentality of, hey, he treated you all horribly. I mean, I basically got eaten alive, but I'll try and do better. But at the same time, I'm still going to throw down the hammer if I need to. And you can see that. He throws down the hammer and quite a few axes on some people.
Yup. So this'll... Yeah, this is nuts. This is just insane. This is not how I thought my day was going to go. I'll leave it at that. For all you guys, again, I don't understand, like, after watching this trailer, you wouldn't want to, again, just tune in on December 29th. It's streaming exclusively on Disney+. Now another reason to get Disney Plus other than The Mandalorian. And again, there's just, as far as like what we've seen so far, what do you guys think of the Book of Boba Fett? Like, are you actually pumped? Do you think it'll just come off as like another generic Star Wars cash grab? Leave your thoughts wherever it is that you can, because again, we're obviously super pumped. We want to hear what it is that's going through your heads exactly. Okay, and now to cap off the show, we're finally going to get a chance to talk about Last Night in Soho. And for those of you that don't know, it's the newest film from Edgar Wright, who also directed films like Baby Driver, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Shaun of the Dead, just to name a few. And it follows a shy and nervous student fashion designer as she discovers the dark underbelly of London when she's able to mysteriously transport back to the 1960s and becomes enamored with an aspiring singer, and she also just happens to witness her murder while doing so. As I mentioned, the film is directed by Edgar Wright, and it stars Thomasin McKenzie of Jojo Rabbit and Anya Taylor-Joy of The Queen's Gambit. And now, again, this is a film that feels like it tries to do a lot, and it doesn't come up short with any of it, in my opinion. But maybe that's just me. What did you think of that? Do you feel like it takes on a little bit too much?
No, I thought this was such an out-of-there idea and concept. I like horror. I love thrillers, too. And I really like psychological horror. And to me, this entire movie just kept me in my own head, kept me on the edge of my seat. I was invested in this character and what was going on, what was happening to her. Not necessarily the how, because I do think they didn't really explain that all too well, but just the general idea and as far as what and who London is, not just as a city, but also as a character in the film and how it's affected her. And you see the drastic change, life-changing moment that she made and is going through. And you just see how it's all compounding. And so, to me, I absolutely adore this movie. I really did. This feels, and as I'm watching it, it's crazy to say, this felt like an Edgar Wright movie. It still did.
Right. It felt very. Here's the thing. It felt mysterious too. There's not a very vibrant feel and atmosphere to it as well. Like, it feels like Edgar Wright is trying something new, which I really appreciated, but it still feels like Edgar Wright is the one doing it. So as far as like walking that tightrope between like trying something new, but like at the same time you don't want to lose yourself, I feel like he did that so well.
Yep, exactly. And this, to me, he feels like the type of director now where place him in any genre and he can do it well. Yep. And still give it his own flair. I mean, a psychological horror thriller, that's definitely not something you think of Edgar Wright, but through the transitions as well, that's why it felt very Edgar Wright-ish. It was a lot of the transitioning, the sound design, the music, definitely the music. He loves his music. So,
yes.
He does. Like this,
that's funny.
But yeah, in all, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it engrossed me enough to where I felt like I was in London too, because of what she was going through. And that was just so thrilling to me because it was like, there's so many questions I had, then they answer it, but they don't answer it fully. They try to sell you on one thing, but then it's really not. And then my brain started working like, oh no. And I got at the end, I was very worried for her. I was I was very worried for the main character. Anya Taylor-Joy, absolutely great. But honestly, she stole the show.
Thomasin McKenzie,
yes.
She was a great lead. The two of them, honestly, I thought they gave terrific performances. They worked very well off of each other with the characters that they were bringing to play. I liked the contrast between the two main characters. I love the internal struggles of both characters as well. And I feel like they're great foils for each other from a character perspective and from a performance perspective as well. And just to, staying on like the topic of the story too, if you really think about it, like this is very much like a commentary on like the darkness, like the dark, seedy underbelly of not just urban life, but like the entertainment industry as well. Because you can draw certain connections between like what happens in this film as opposed to like certain other stories that we hear about like life in like motion picture industry and stuff like that. There are a lot of great twists in this film that I really enjoyed. If there's one problem I do have with the story, is that there's something that happens in like the rising action. I don't want to give away too much, but there's something that happens in the rising action that doesn't make sense with the resolution that I feel like would have gotten the main character kicked out of the school, and she's still there after it happens. I don't want to give away much, but I have an odd feeling that you know what it is that I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did have that issue, but it's like, even from a story, it's like, I had that issue with that, and then, even some of the, I guess, tropes they were doing as well. I had a problem, but then at the same time, it's like, it's understandable for what the story they're trying to tell. But, again, the horror elements, the thrilling elements, the psychological, intrigued me and tossed me in the movie completely, to the point where I kind of put that stuff aside because I was already invested.
Yeah, and again too, like just from like a technical end of things too, right? A technical and artistic end of things too. Like again, like like you said before, he loves his music. I like how much of the scenes are edited to like whatever bit of catchy music that he picked. And I gotta say, he's got a great ear for music too, Edgar. Right? He really does. But yes. I love the production design. I love the costume design. I feel like there were just like two more things that just helped bring you into 1960s London. And just even then, just based on, or even then, just I forgot to mention about like, certain visuals that they use as well. How everything felt so seamless. And again, I think it's just quality visual effects, just quality editing, just like how everything came together so well. And I'm not going to lie, based on the reviews, which are technically more positive, but they're not like as positive, I would say. I didn't expect to enjoy this movie as much as I did, but I'm really happy that I saw this in the theater. Like, I really enjoyed this, and I feel like this is going to be a great horror movie to be watched around Halloween for really some time to come.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. And it's so... Again, this movie it honestly blew my mind, because just the amount of level of detail in certain of the themes that they were going for, as well as the horror elements, made me so like, how do they do this? Like, this is one of the first horror movies in a while where I actually questioned, how do they do this shot? How do they do this? And I saw some behind the scenes, but at the same time, it was just like this meticulousness and this attention to detail, and how Edgar Wright directed and orchestrated just this, and what I see, a very masterful, pretty masterful film as far as from a technical perspective, with all the transitions and etc. Just how they do it. And again, this intrigued me to the point, had great solid mystery. It made your head keep thinking and going around and around on a consistent basis, because you don't know, it's almost like you don't know what's real and what's true until the end. And even in the end, you feel, it's like you still feel happy, but then you also feel a bit of sadness because of certain revelations and empathy, and I didn't expect to feel that as well.
Yeah. So, like, honestly, I thought this film was terrific. Again, for all you that are with us, what did you think of Last Night in Soho? Again, does it live up to or frail in comparison to Edgar Wright's other work? Comment wherever it is that you can. And just like that, that's it for today. We're not going to be on next week, but we will return with a new episode on Monday, November 15th at our now usual time of 3 p.m., which will feature our reviews of Lin-Manuel Miranda's Tick, Tick, Boom and Kenneth Branagh's Belfast. And, just one more time before we go off the air. Don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all notifications, whether you're on Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Listen Notes, the Podcast Index, Stitcher, and so much more. And follow our social media pages that are listed in the description, and we'll see you on the 15th.